So yes, Blizzard is actually doing something about tempering. We're going to be talking about all the brand new weapons. We got over 50 uniques and legendaries coming up here. Yes, Blizzard just held an absolutely massive live stream for all things Season 5 and the upcoming public test realm. And we're going to be going over what the developers had to say about the new in-game wave mode, Infernal Hordes, about big changes coming to every single class. I mean, this is one of the biggest updates by far for Diablo 4. Some impressive things going on here. So let's start out by hearing from Dan Tegway, who of course is from Blizzard, and he goes on to talk about Season 5 and of course the public test realm. Now, if you didn't know, the public test realm will be available from June 25th to July 2nd, and Season 5 officially begins on August 6, 2024. It's going to be one of the shorter seasons as well. Season 5 will officially end on October 8th when Vessel of Hatred begins, which is also going to be the start of Season 6. But Season 5 is introducing Infernal Hordes, which is going to be a wave-based type mode where you slay hordes of enemies and you earn Burning Ether to unlock powerful weapons and rewards. We're talking about a ton of new uniques and of course legendaries here, including legendary powers as well. And then ultimately you will be unlocking access to some new bosses. But yeah, take a listen to what Dan Tegway had to say about this.
Let me introduce you to the Infernal Hordes. All right, first off, you're going to unlock, the activity for Hell with a brisk Eternal questline starting at World Tier 3 in Zarbinzet. That's where you need to go in the PTR. Now you need a new type of key called a compass, which you can see down in the inventory below here. And like Nightmare Dungeons, the compasses all have a starting monster difficulty and a number of revives. And there are 8 levels of difficulty with escalating challenge and rewards. As you can see, it's a very Nightmare Dungeon-like flow here. And then compasses can be upgraded to higher tiers with all new consumables called Abyssal Scrolls. So you'll get a chance to play with all these new features when you're in the PTR. But let's really talk about the gameplay itself, and I think we've got some footage of the wave-based play that we can show off here. First off, going to have a lot of monsters. Now, you have one monster here. This is the start of Wave 1. And so you defeat this Aether Fiend, and it's going to drop something called Burning Aether, which is a new currency. Now, this new currency is specific to Hell, and you use it to unlock the spoils of Hell at the end of a run. And at the end of each wave, there's going to be what's called the Infernal Offer. So let's get through this wave and we'll take a look at the Infernal Offer. Now you see these hands reaching out from Hell itself, and they're tempting you with a choice. You're going to choose the form of your destructor. You're going to pick a boon and a bane that impacts the rest of your run. And so now you've chosen a boon and a bane, and that's going to modify the gameplay that comes up next. And so here you're jumping into one of the new activities that also unlocks Aether in this. And this is a Soul Spire. It's pretty similar to a Hell Spire that you'd see in Helltide. And you have to kill a number of enemies within that ring in order to be able to earn an Aether. And you can upgrade Soul Spires from the Infernal Offer as well if you like. And then finally, what you need to do is complete the number of waves in order to be able to confront the boss. And so you see in this particular run, you're at 5 of 5 waves. So you are just about ready once you defeat this wave to go confront the new bosses for the Infernal Hordes. So these are the Fell Council. There are going to be some familiar faces for Diablo 2 players. They are resurrected versions of the council members from Diablo 2. Now for those of you who didn't play Diablo 2, the council members were former high priests of the Zakarum. And they had promised to basically take care of Mephisto after he'd been trapped in the Soul Stone. We've actually built 5 of them in total, but you're only going to fight 3 at a time. Now, we keep 2 in the hopper, basically, and we do that because we want to have a whole bunch of replay associated with this boss fight. And because we're only using 3 of the 5, there's actually 10 variations of this boss fight you can fight randomly as you do your Infernal run. And so we're going to basically kill them off. And once you defeat one, the fight will actually escalate. Actually, it probably escalates even if you just take down a certain amount of health, if I remember correctly. But we've defeated them here. And this is the reward moment I actually wanted to talk through with you, because this is something that really ties into itemization 2.0. You've got several chests here. And you've got a choice of the rewards you get at the end of your Infernal run. You can choose from a chest that contains all new legendaries and uniques. You can choose from a chest that contains all sorts of crafting materials, including masterworking materials. You've got a chest that allows you just to get a whole bunch of gold. And finally, even though it wasn't shown here, you have a chest that guarantees a single item with a greater affix on it.
But yeah, so far I'm really digging what they're doing with this Horde mode. I think it's going to be a great addition to Season 5. But you're probably wondering, what about the new uniques, the new legendaries, that sort of thing? So we did go on to talk about that and show that off, so take a look.
So first up, we've got the Basilisk. And so this is going to be a new unique staff for druids. And so when you hit an enemy with an earth skill, it'll petrify them and deal physical damage. So turning the monsters to stone, always cool. But it's also cool that you can CC your target and boost your initial attack here. All right, next up, we've got the Third Blade. Now this is a unique sword for barbarians. This one makes your weapon mastery skills be treated as core skills that cost fury. Even though they deal a little reduced damage, this one's pretty exciting because now you can start making all sorts of new builds that you've never seen before. Now the Mordecrux is a new unique dagger for Necros, so when you consume a corpse, there's a chance that you'll create a skeletal simulacrum that seeks out enemies, and when it dies, it explodes. So essentially, you're making a skelly bomb when you consume corpses, and so that's just going to seek out targets and explode. Now, the Umbacrux is a new unique dagger for rogues. So if you use a subterfuge skill, you'll create a totem. And if you hit that totem with an attack, it replicates any of the damage it takes to all nearby enemies. And so it's a great way for essentially replicating and doubling down on the damage that you're dealing in a particular area. Now, the Vox Omnium is a new unique staff for Sorks. And so when you cast a core skill, it's going to cast an additional 2 basic projectiles based on the previous elements used. And so this allows you to really start comboing your core and basic skills together. And if you decide to have different elements associated with those core and basic skills, now you can start casting fire and lightning and cold all at the same time. And the final one we're going to share out here is actually a new set of boots that's available for all classes. And these are called Rakanos Wake. And so whenever you use an ability with a cooldown, you'll trigger an explosion dealing fire damage. And so really, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to bathe your enemies in flames whenever you use a cooldown skill. So maybe I'm going to dust off my Whirlwind Barb here and slap them on and see how it does.
And yes, I know tempering has been a hot topic, so guess what? They talked about it. Adam Jackson had some choice words about what they're going to be doing with tempering in the future, so take a listen.
So first, high level, kind of how we see tempering. We really think that it's important that items have an endpoint where players know kind of that the item is done and that they're not hoarding lots of them forever on the chance that they can all be good, right? One of the big key goals of Season 4 was that we didn't want you saving 1 million items in your stash space. And while we know that, bricking an item never feels great, we do need that to be something that's possible to do in the game so that you know when the journey is done and you're not just holding on to an item forever. So that part we actually think is working very well, where, an item is done and you try and go get another one. And so you're always interested in items and trying to, have that game loop go in the game indefinitely, or until you feel like your character is maxed out on its power. But we do agree with players that, the RNG right now is like completely out of their hands. So we're looking at ways in the future for players to have more control over that RNG. One update that's going to be coming in Season 5. As your item gets better, basically, that you find, you're going to have more chances to temper it. So a much better chance to get the one that you want. Basically, the way it'll work is you're going to basically get 1 extra roll per greater affix that you have.
And there was a little bit of confusion about this from the chat, so Adam Fletcher did go ahead and clarify. He went on to say this.
If you have a 1-star greater affix, you'll get 1 additional roll. If you have like a 3-star or 4-star or something, you would get 3 or 4, pending the amount of stars that you actually specifically have on your item.
Yeah, I think it goes up to 3.
And some pretty critical things happening to uniques as well, especially with how you can actually target farm them. So you're definitely going to want to know this one, so take a listen.
You can now target farm uniques from 3 additional sources. You can target them from Obol vendors, Helltide chests, and Whisper caches. You open, I'm just going to use Helltide chests as an example, right? If you want a specific unique weapon, let's say, you can just simply target the weapon Helltide chests, and you'll be able to have a chance to get only unique weapons for your class from those chests. And in addition to that, this is also true for Mythic uniques. So I'll just give an example here of exactly how this works. Let's say that you want to get, Harlequin Crest, a Shaco, or Andariel's Visage. You don't want to target those helms. You could be targeting helms from Helltide, targeting helms and, when you turn in your obols to the obol vendor. And every time, if you get a Mythic unique, you will get one of those two from that source.
But yes, they're also doing some interesting things with uniques. First and foremost, they're buffing them across the board. Every single one of them is going to be seeing a buff. And they're going to be simplifying the stats on uniques, much like they did the overhaul for the loot entirely. They're doing the same thing for uniques as well. And Adam Jackson also talked about adding tempering stats for uniques. Take a listen to what he had to say right here.
We're also going to be adding tempering stats. We're open to really adding whatever we want that makes the unique fit the fantasy. So as an example here, a lot of two-hand weapon uniques have a problem where they're all basically competing against bonus projectiles as an affix because you can just temper that onto your weapons, right? So when it comes to those kind of situations, we'll just slap the bonus projectiles on that unique, and now, it's no longer competing in that way, or we have to kind of dance around it. We can just put it. We're also open to the idea, by the way, of breaking slot restrictions, kind of like we did in Season 2. So you can have bonus projectiles or other things on other slots. Like uniques are where we get to play a little bit.
But they're also going to be updating the star power levels and effects for the uniques when it comes to the thematic abilities of those uniques. They really want those to stand out big time aside from the generic stats that these uniques offer. So they're going to be messing around with that. And guess what? Mythic uniques will now have a new color beam, new sound, new item UI. Take a listen.
Isn't that sound, that echoey sound? I love it.
Sounds like I don't know. It sounds like you're murdering a bunch of church organs or something like that. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So that's nice to see and hear. I think a lot of people will be very happy when they hear that noise go off. They're also going to be doing a bunch of adjustments to every single class, some more significant than others. But let's take a listen to see what they had to say about that one.
All right, now let's get to the classes. So Barbarian, they have a new unique coming in. This is the Unbroken Chain. This is for you support Barbarians or really just more defensively oriented ones. Basically, what this is going to do is create a connection between Steel Grasp and Iron Maelstrom, where you'll be able to cast Iron Maelstrom a lot more often as you use Steel Grasp. And also, enemies damaged by Iron Maelstrom are going to be doing less damage for a little while. And next, the Rogue. Flurry is going to be getting a lot of big updates. We updated the enhancement and both of their upgrades. The Flurry becomes a vulnerable generator here, which is pretty exciting. And it'll also deal more damage as you hit vulnerable enemies. Stacks up really high. So the idea here is with Flurry builds, you want to make everything vulnerable and then just keep whacking them with Flurry and gain a bunch of damage. So now Improved Flurry is going to actually give you a dash. So now similar to things like the Shred on the Druid, you can kind of dash to your target, and also every time you cast Flurry now it's going to heal you. And then last but not least, to compete with a dash, what could we do with Advanced Flurry? Well, we can just add a stupid amount of damage and resource cost reduction. Next, Druid, Shepherd's Aspect. So we've changed it now where, basically it's going to be about the companions. So your companion skills are just going to deal damage for every companion that you have. So, the bigger your zoo, the better your zoo is going to perform. And to compensate players, we're doing some pretty massive buffs to Druid skills baseline to compensate. Next, for the Sorceress, this is Axial Conduit. You have chance to double cast Chain Lightning on pants instead of just a weapon. You can see that, as you go, it'll keep going, and then explode a bunch of times. Another thing I want to point out is if you're hugging enemies in melee range, as it's circling you, it will also hit enemies. So next, last but not least, the Necromancer. So now you can see your Golem will Hulk Smash and just jump on enemies and slam them down. This will work with all of your Golem types, by the way, not just the Iron Golem, but now your Golem is going to leap to the area that you tell him to go and then cast its ability.
So yeah, I love what they've done with the Golem for the Necro. You guys know I love running Necro. To see this makes me very, very happy. It's like a Hulk smash. And they've also expanded the weapons that you can actually use per class. Check this out right here. Here's what Adam Jackson had to say about that one.
So now Druids are going to be able to use two-hand polearms, one-hand swords, and daggers. Sorceresses are going to be able to use one-hand swords and maces. And Necromancers are going to be able to use, I think it's maces and axes, actually. And then also some of the uniques are going to be updated for the classes as well. So the Butcher's Cleaver can now be used for Necros, and Sorcerers can use Doombringer and Azure Wrath.
And there's some noteworthy changes they made to how you summon in-game bosses. You no longer have to make a sigil to summon the Beast in Ice. He's going to be now living in a standard dungeon. The crawl to find the boss has been removed, and Eternal players can still activate existing sigils to fight the boss. No longer requires sigil dust to summon. And Varshan says numbers of body parts needed to summon is 1. It used to be 4. But yeah, there it is. Overall, I'm super impressed with what they're doing with Diablo for Season 5, and I'm kind of curious to see what they do with Season 6 once the expansion does drop. Remember, Season 5 is going to be a bit shorter, so you definitely want to hop on like immediately when it finally does release. But I cannot wait to finally check out like what they did with the Golem. Just that big Hawk Smash move gets me super excited. The new uniques, legendaries, that sort of thing. It's very, very cool to see that they've added this in. I cannot wait to try the Horde mode. That's been highly requested, and I think it could be a lot of fun. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more Diablo 4 and open world gaming goodness, and I will see you all next time. Take care.